thing about YOASOBI that I really like about him is, even though there are a lot of people who kind of like do the anime thing with the fast-paced words and the lyrics, the way they do it, to me, it sounds a little bit more pleasurable to my ears. Welcome back to the React Room. Your boy Dom K, back in here solo dolo again today. Got a good video for you guys today. YOASOBI. YOASOBI's, I think, the most popular group in Japan right now. It's hard to say most popular because there's always so many different artists in Japan. So many different artists. Like you got YOASOBI, Kenshi, Creepy Nuts, Ado, A-Witch, Baby Metal, XG. Like, it's just so many. It's too many actually to even keep count of. So for me, you know, I just try to stay up to date. But I think I read a stat somewhere that said YOASOBI is probably like the most popular like on Spotify and YouTube right now. But it changes every week. But I know how popular they are. I reviewed some of their music before. It's very good, but I don't know anything about the history of them. I want to know, who are they? Where are they from? What do they do? How do they get into music? How do they become popular? So I'm gonna deep dive into the history of YOASOBI, how they started, where they come from, and just trying to learn a little bit more about these artists from the other side of the world. I'm into all type of music. I love Japanese music. Japanese music is probably my second favorite after America, because I like the Korean music, but it's mostly BTS, and I like the Filipino music, but it's mostly SB19. So it's like I like a lot of different artists from those countries, but it's kind of like I just kind of mainly go with one and one. But with Japan, it's just like I like a lot of artists. It's a lot of artists that I like. I think it's about 10, 11, 12, 13 people I listen to. So I'm not gonna bore y'all with the details. I'm excited about today's video. Let's get right into it. YOASOBI. This first video is how YOASOBI broke J-Pop.
Social media and the growing popularity of anime, Japanese music is receiving more attention globally now than it ever has before. Out of the many talented artists who have reached fans in almost every corner of the world, none have become an overnight success like YOASOBI have. This J-pop duo became an online phenomenon during the pandemic. Their debut song became the first Japanese song to reach 1 billion views, and they followed it up with over 10 other songs that have well over 100 million streams. Although YOASOBI became an overnight success, the same can't be said for its members, Ikura and Ayase. Ikura was a struggling singer who was very close to giving up on her music dream, and Ayase is a failed rock vocalist who only began producing music after discovering Vocaloid while hospitalized. Together, these two form YOASOBI, a music unit that turns novels into music. But how did YOASOBI manage to accomplish so much in only 5 years? This is the remarkable tale of how Ikura and Ayase came together to take over the world. Our story begins with YOASOBI's vocalist, Ikura. Born in Tokyo, Ikura's family moved to Chicago when she was only 1, but they came back to Japan 2 years later. Ikura's home was filled with music growing up, and she's wanted to be a singer for as long as she can remember. Living in the US made her a big fan of Disney shows like Glee and Hannah Montana, and one of her biggest inspirations is ironically Taylor Swift. Ikura began learning the piano in elementary school and practiced singing almost every day, to the extent that Ikura thinks that there are very few singers who have practiced more than she has. In the 6th grade, Ikura learned the acoustic guitar and started writing lyrics as well as composing songs. Her interest in writing lyrics actually came from her father. He wrote Ikura's mom a song for a special occasion, and it made Ikura feel a new sort of warmth in writing lyrics in your own words. By the time she was in high school, Ikura played the trumpet in an orchestra club and started performing at different stations and live music venues. However, she still faced constant rejections with record auditions. She even faced verbal and even physical abuse when she was performing on the streets. At times, Ikura thought about giving up on her dream, but thankfully she didn't. Her hard work began to pay off, and in 2016, Ikura was chosen to participate in The Lesson. It's a free training program that Sony Music offers for young artists, and with this help, Ikura released her first demo album. A few months before her 17th birthday, Ikura joined Plasonica. She was the youngest member in the group's original branch in Tokyo and was tasked with vocals as well as playing the trumpet, guitar, and keyboard. Despite Plasonica not being too popular, it was a step forward for her to become a full-time musician. Over the next 2 years, Ikura made her first TV appearance, released 2 mini-albums, covered a song for a commercial, and even enrolled in a music program at Nihon University. Things were looking promising for Ikura, and the biggest turning point of her career was just around the corner. The other half of YOASOBI is producer Ayase. Born in 1994, he grew up in the small industrial city of Ube. Ayase began piano lessons with his grandmother around the time he was 3 or 4 and continued with piano until junior high school. The other instrument he learned was the guitar. Ayase got an acoustic guitar as a Christmas present one year, and he started learning a variety of songs by Sheena Ringo. Through listening to J-pop artists like EXILE and Echo, Ayase realized he had a passion for singing. When he was 14, he told his parents that he wanted to be a singer, and although they weren't completely against the idea, they simply told him to go to school. However, in his first year of high school, Ayase dropped out to focus on his band named Da Vinci. Ayase was the leader of the band and was responsible for both vocals and lyrics. He was writing songs and performing around 3 to 4 times a month. His parents saw how serious he was, and over time they gradually began to support his dream. Da Vinci was based in Shuna and was active across the Yamaguchi and Fukuoka prefectures. In 2016, the band relocated to Tokyo with the hope of making it big. Over the next 2 years, Da Vinci did a mini tour around the country as well as releasing a few mini albums and EPs. The social media accounts that Da Vinci and Ayase used during this time are still online, but most of their music isn't accessible. They do have a few songs on YouTube, and I think they're pretty good, to be honest. The earnings from Da Vinci weren't enough to support its members, and so each member was working part-time to sustain themselves and the band. Ayase was living in a very small apartment with his sister at the time, and his dream of making it big was looking very unlikely. Unfortunately, in October of 2018, Ayase reached his lowest point after being hospitalized from the peptic ulcer disease. So with their bandleader out of the picture, Da Vinci gradually disbanded over the next while. So do you think Ayase gave up on his dream and spent the rest of his life suffocating in some shitty office job like the rest of us? Thankfully not, as this is another story of saving by none other than Hatsune Miku. One day Ayase heard his eldest sister listening to a Vocaloid song. For anyone who doesn't know what Vocaloid is, it's a singing software that lets users create synthesized vocals, and Hatsune Miku is the most popular Vocaloid voice. The song Ayase's sister was listening to was Neru's Jailbreak, specifically the version covered by Mafu Mafu, who is a real person. Ayase was astounded by Jailbreak, and he then binge-listened to all of Neru's music as well as the other popular Vocaloid songs at the time. After going down this rabbit hole of Vocaloid music, Ayase's new dream was to become a Vocaloid producer. So he bought the Hatsune Miku software, and on December 24th, 2018, he released his first Vocaloid song on both YouTube and the Japanese site Nico Nico. The song's lyrics seem to reflect the struggle and uncertainty that Ayase felt towards his future, but he continued to make Vocaloid music over the next year. Now, what do you think Ayase enjoyed most about working as a Vocaloid producer as opposed to being in a band? Was it being able to work from home or having complete creative control over what kind of music you make? Well, it was the money, and who can blame him? Ayase said that when he worked part-time while being involved with Da Vinci, he was still losing money. Within a year of debuting as a Vocaloid producer, Ayase managed to pay off his previous debt. For what I'd guess, it was probably the first time in his life that he was actually making money from his music. Fast forward to April of 2019, and Ayase released Last Resort. He thought the song would be able to reach 1 million views, but it stayed around 7,000 views for the first few months. Then in the span of 3 days, that number increased to 100,000. This was a memory that Ayase said he would never forget. Last Resort eventually passed the 1 million mark, and it gave him the attention that he had long deserved. Ayase was eventually approached by 2 individuals from Sony Music. They wanted him to join their new project, which would see him produce songs about the novels featured on this novel-centered social media website called Monogatari. Ayase agreed to join, and now all that was needed to start the project was a vocalist. So Ayase began searching for a vocalist on social media, and he came across Ikura on Instagram. He was impressed by her covers, especially this one of Amyeon's You Don't Listen to Rock. Ayase reached out to Ikura about joining him on this project. However, initially, Ikura wasn't sure if she wanted to sing songs that she didn't write herself. But this quickly changed when she listened to Ayase's music. She was fascinated by Ayase's Vocaloid songs, especially Last Resort. And with that, the story of YOASOBI was about to begin. In September of 2019, a teaser was posted on Ayase's YouTube channel about the upcoming debut of YOASOBI. Ayase is actually the one who came up with the name. It means nightlife and represents how their individual careers are like the daytime, whereas YOASOBI is their nighttime project. Their slogan is novel into music, and the project initially targeted the fans of Ayase's Vocaloid music. YOASOBI's debut song was based on Maya Hoshino's short story The Temptation of Thanatos. This story is one of the 2 grand prize winners of the Monocon 2019 contest, and on November 16th, Yoru ni Kakeru was posted on YouTube. The song translates to Racing into the Night or simply Into the Night, and it was officially released as a digital single in December. The YouTube visuals were done by Nina Ai, and needless to say, she did an incredible job. 5 months after its release, Yoru ni Kakeru had 10 million views on YouTube, and it was taking over the Japanese and global charts. It also went viral on social media during the pandemic, and one of the reasons for this was the contrast between the song's catchy beat and dark lyrics. Every listener who can't understand Japanese would be inclined to think that it's a cheerful song with a very danceable beat. You'd never guess that the lyrics are actually pretty dark. I won't be talking about what the lyrics explicitly mean because I don't want a content warning like the YouTube video received. Speaking of the video, if it didn't have the warning, it would probably have a lot more views. Not that 200 million isn't a lot. Although Ikura and Ayase had to deal with the pressures of both fame and matching the success of their debut song, it didn't stop them from making more great music. 2020 started with the release of Tracing That Dream. The song was based on the second winner of the Monocon 2019 contest. The story follows a love story between 2 high school students at a firework festival, and unlike Yoru ni Kakeru, it has a happy ending. In May, YOASOBI released their 3rd single, Halcyon. This was the first time that one of their songs wasn't based on something from Monogatari, and it marked their first collaboration with a professional novelist. Around this time, Ikura appeared on the Japanese YouTube channel The First Take, and performed a rearranged version of Yoru ni Kakeru. It was recorded from Ikura's home during the pandemic, and it's now the 2nd most viewed video on The First Take's YouTube channel. The second half of 2020 saw YOASOBI release 3 more singles. The first was Probably in July. This track showed us a different side of YOASOBI compared to their first 3 songs. It has a softer beat with lyrics depicting a couple breaking up, and the music video matches the song perfectly. September marked the release of Blue. The song is inspired from the manga series Blue Period, and is also based on these texts. It was the second YOASOBI song to be featured on The First Take, but this time Ayase was there alongside Ikura. Blue is used for a promotional video for a Japanese chocolate brand, but for whatever reason, the video is now private on YOASOBI's YouTube channel. The track also has an uncredited chorus by Plasonica, who Ikura was still a part of at the time. Haruka is the final song that YOASOBI released in 2020. It's a heartfelt song about love and relationships, and was also a fitting way to end what was an amazing year for Ikura and Ayase. YOASOBI still had one other accomplishment by the end of the year, and that was their first live performance. They appeared on the 71st edition of the NHK Kohaku Uta Gassen, also known as the Red and White Song Battle. This is a yearly New Year's Eve TV event that features a top Japanese artist. As you can guess, it was a big deal that YOASOBI were invited to this, especially since they hadn't even released their first album at the time. The participating artists are divided into 2 teams, red being female artists and white being male artists. Since YOASOBI have a female singer, they were put on the red team, and I don't think it was a coincidence that this was the first time the red team won since 2016. YOASOBI started 2021 with the release of their debut EP, The Book. It contained the 6 singles they previously released, alongside another song called Encore, which now has over 100 million streams. The book also has 2 short tracks titled Prologue and Epilogue, which appears the first and last song in the EP. Some think that the irony between these 2 titles are supposed to relate to how manga is read in the opposite way than your standard English book is read. As you probably expected, the book was a big success in Japan, as it reached the 2nd spot on the Japanese weekly and monthly album charts. It was also the only album to exceed 100,000 digital downloads by the end of 2021. The book is what introduced the world to YOASOBI, and it's by far my favorite EP that they've made so far. Before we continue, I wanted to talk about how exactly a YOASOBI song is made, because it's quite an interesting process. It all starts with Ayase. He spends time thinking about the meaning behind the chosen story for a song, and writes lyrics that reflect both himself and the story. Ayase's melodies are influenced by a lot of mainstream 80s and 90s J-pop, as well as K-pop. He wants to incorporate the sounds of the past while also keeping the overall sound of his songs up to date with current industry trends. In terms of production, he has a very hands-on style. Ayase doesn't need expensive equipment to make music. He does most of his work with just his laptop. He uses a digital audio workstation called Logic Pro and rarely goes into a professional studio or uses real instruments. Funny enough, the guy doesn't even use a mouse most of the time. For his song's first demo, Ayase will use Vocaloid software to avoid any distortion based on a human vocalist's interpretation. Ikura will then listen to the demo, which usually uses Hatsune Miku's vocals, and then record her own vocals to replace Miku's. The cool thing is that you can actually listen to some of these Miku versions of YOASOBI songs. Ayase's Miku no YOASOBI features every song from the book, excluding the intro and the outro, but with the vocals from Miku instead of Ikura. YOASOBI continued to release singles throughout 2021, and in December, they released their second EP, The Book 2. It consists of 8 songs and is YOASOBI's first project involving anime music. The 6th track, Monster, was used as the opening theme for the second season of Beastars, and the 5th track, Comet, was used as the anime's ending theme. Monster has over 350 million views on YouTube, and Time Magazine actually ranked it the 5th best song of 2021. RGB is the second most streamed song on the EP, and it's the first YOASOBI song that had Ikura rapping. The opening track, The Swallow, features a children group called Midori's, which is pretty cool as well. Romance is one of my favorite YOASOBI songs, and it surprises me that it's not one of the 10 plus songs that have passed the 100 million streams mark. Overall, The Book 2 is a decent album, and it placed 3rd on Japan's year-end chart for best-selling digital albums. 2021 was a successful year for YOASOBI, and it was the second year in a row that they appeared on Kohaku Uta Gassen. On October 4th, 2023, YOASOBI completed their book trilogy with the release of their 3rd EP. The book 3 consists of 10 songs, 2 of which are these short interludes that use parts of other songs. The opening track, The Brave, was the first opening for the anime Frieren Beyond Journey's End. It's based on a short story called Fanfare for Frieren that was released alongside the show. Both Ayase and Ikura were huge fans of the manga, so they were delighted to work on the show's opening. They tried to capture its lonely atmosphere as well as the changes that Frieren experienced during her journey. Upon release, there was a debate about whether The Brave matched the feeling of the anime, as many people felt that it didn't. I don't know if it's because they heard a fast beat and didn't bother to look at the lyrics, but without going into too much detail, I thought it suited Frieren. The 3rd track, The Blessing, was the opening theme for Season 1 of Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch of Mercury. When people talk about YOASOBI and anime music, their collaboration with Gundam is one that I think isn't mentioned enough, because of how significant the Gundam IP is. YOASOBI had previously collaborated with this short story collection to make 4 stories into songs, and that's the origin of the tracks Mr., Adventure, 17, and Umi no Mani Mani. Out of these 4, Mr. is my favorite. We now move into the pinnacle of this EP, Idol. This song was the opening theme for the anime Oshi no Ko, and it managed to not only match the success of Yoru ni Kakeru, but arguably surpass it. Funny enough, Ayase is a longtime fan of Aka Akasaka's manga, and he actually made a demo song for it long before he received the offer to make the opening. If he didn't get the offer, Ayase was planning to release his demo as a Vocaloid song. Idol's lyrics are based on Akasaka's spin-off short novel, and they capture the dark side of both fame and Japan's idol industry. This song's popularity was heavily influenced by the success of Oshi no Ko and was used excessively on social media platforms. It even became the first Japanese song to reach number 1 on the Billboard's global chart that excludes American songs. So what made Idol so successful? Music director Oma Akimitsu believes it's because of the song's key and melody changes alongside the use of rap and the background voices of enthusiastic fans. Akimitsu said that if you put it all together, it sounds like a glittering kaleidoscope. And that's why Idol has become so popular. Idol propelled YOASOBI to become the second Japanese artist after Fujikaze to reach 10 million monthly listeners on Spotify. YOASOBI had performed Idol on the 2023 edition of the Kohaku Uta Gassen, and this performance gave off Avengers Endgame vibes. I'm gonna list everyone who appeared in this performance. Avant-Garde, Real Akiba Boys, 17, Sakurazaka 46, Nogizaka 46, BE:FIRST, Nizu, Jo1, Misamo, NewJeans, Ano, Le Seraphim, and Kana Hashimoto. I can't play it because of copyright, but I highly recommend checking it out. I also have to mention the Anime Men here. They made this amazing music video for Yoru ni Kakeru, and were planning to make one for Idol. They couldn't reach their funding goal to make it happen, but I still have hope that one day they'll be able to make it. Anyways, the book 3 is my least favorite YOASOBI EP, but it solidified YOASOBI as a household name for anime music and did very well with both sales and chart rankings. While YOASOBI's studio work has been the main reason for their international success, their live performances have also been a big reason for their popularity. Ikura and Ayase want to show YOASOBI to the world not only through their music, but through performing as well. They believe that their music is a different experience in person, one that brings new meaning to it. YOASOBI began performing live in 2021, but their first few concerts were broadcasted without any fans in attendance because of the pandemic. By the time these restrictions were uplifted, upwards of 130,000 people were showing up to their concerts. In August of 2023, YOASOBI had their first performance in the US at the Heads in the Clouds Festival and have since returned a number of times. They performed at this year's Coachella and Lollapalooza festivals, as well as doing a US tour across 4 cities. YOASOBI were also the opening act for Coldplay's World Tour in Tokyo last year. By now, you've probably noticed that during YOASOBI's live performances, it isn't just Ayase and Ikura on stage. There's actually a group of musicians that accompany the duo for all of their performances, and they're called the YOASOBI Band. We have Honogumo on drums and Ash on guitar. These two have been unavailable for YOASOBI at times, so Crossfaith drummer Tatsuya Amano and guitarist Satoru Taguchi have replaced them when needed. There's also Zakuro Misuhagi on keyboard and backing vocals, and bassist Hikaru Yamamoto, who seems to be the fan favorite. These supporting members all play a big role in making YOASOBI's performances so special, and I hope that one day I can see them all live. With the growing interest in YOASOBI internationally, the duo decided to make English versions of their songs to further appeal to fans overseas. Since 2021, YOASOBI have been releasing English covers of most of their songs, and they've been packaged across these 3 EPs called E-Side. Hani Aoki is the person that translates YOASOBI's songs from Japanese to English. Aoki describes his process of matching the sound and meaning of the original lyrics as 3-dimensional. Take the word namida for an example. It's a 3-syllable word that translates to tears. For the 2 extra syllables, Aoki uses his understanding of the source material as well as his imagination to come up with something that will fit. For the song Haven't, one of the beginning phrases is sayonara da, meaning goodbye. Aoki didn't want to use goodbye, so he came up with something new based on the source material. The story opens with the narrator alone in a room where he used to spend time together with his partner, who has now left him. So Aoki decided to use Saw You're Not Around, since it had a similar number of syllables, consonants, and vowels as sayonara da. It's very clever wordplay. It's not Japanese, but the tone sounds like it is. I enjoy listening to these songs as background music while studying or driving, but after listening to all 3 of these EPs, I couldn't tell you much about the stories that they were based on. YOASOBI is supposed to turn novels into music, and for me, their English songs failed to do that, since I can't understand a lot of the lyrics. Nevertheless, the 3 E-side EPs have done fairly well on the Japanese charts, and it's great that YOASOBI are trying to bring their music to new audiences. Now that we've gone over the majority of YOASOBI info, I wanted to touch upon some other things that YOASOBI fans, or yakisobas, would find interesting. Since the release of the book 3, YOASOBI have released 4 more singles. The first is Beady Beady, a song that was made to celebrate the anniversary of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. The lyrics mention the names of the mainline Pokemon games in order, and even make some puns towards some of the games that weren't mentioned. The second song, Heartbeat, has quite the story behind it. NHK does a yearly event that sees 1,000 18-year-olds who are chosen through entries perform a song alongside an artist. YOASOBI's theme was Heartbeats, and they created the song based on the video submissions from the participants. The next single is Undead, which is the ending theme for the Monogatari series Often Monster Season. Whenever Ayase was asked about his favorite anime, he's always responded with Bake Monogatari, so it's pretty cool that he got to collaborate with his favorite series. YOASOBI's latest single is On the Stage. This track is the NHK sports theme for 2024. It's most notably been used for NHK's coverage of the 2024 Olympics and Paralympics. In October, YOASOBI will release a new single for the anime movie Fureru called Monotone. Ayase and Ikura have also collaborated with a number of top Japanese artists like Creepy Nuts and Yumi Masutoya. YOASOBI's music has drawn comparisons to that of Yorushika and Zutomeo. These 3 music units have been grouped together by fans under the term yakose, meaning nocturnal. One thing I was really surprised to find out was that YOASOBI were invited to a White House state dinner this year. The event was hosted for the visiting Prime Minister of Japan. Since Ayase doesn't share his real name, I found it funny that on the guest list he was simply referred to as Mr. Ayase. One common question that gets asked about Ikura and Ayase is the relationship with each other, especially since there's a 6-year gap between them. By appearance, they seem like very different people. Ikura is usually dressed with intricate colors and patterns, whereas Ayase is often wearing black from head to toe. Ikura thought that Ayase was a scary guy at first, but she quickly learned that he's a very gentle person. Ayase, on the other hand, doesn't see much of the age gap between them, although he does say that Ikura makes him feel a bit old with how much energy she has. The two have become close friends through YOASOBI, and it really shows with how much chemistry they have working together. The success of YOASOBI has brought both Ayase and Ikura a lot of attention towards their solo careers, and for me, it's still weird to think that YOASOBI is just a side project for them. Ayase has continued to make Vocaloid music and occasionally cover songs with his own vocals. He's done openings for the shows Buddy Daddies and Samurai X, as well as collaborating with other singers like Ado, Lisa, and Hoshimachi Suse. He's also done an EP alongside Vocaloid producers Shudo, Suri, and Sumiki, under the name Dreamers. Ayase even made the theme song for the Hatsune Miku Magical Mirai in 2023, and he cooked. Magical Mirai is a yearly Vocaloid event in Japan that takes place around Miku's birthday, and Ayase's involvement really shows how far he's come as an artist with the help of Miku. Similar to Ayase, Ikura's solo career has seen great success since joining YOASOBI. Ikura believes that her identity changes depending on the project she's working on. For her own music, she sings as Laila Sikuta, and writes her lyrics in a way that's natural to her. With YOASOBI, she sings as Ikura, and tries to sing as though she's the novel's protagonist. The name Ikura can translate to salmon roe in Japanese, and she ironically hates salmon roe. In 2021, Ikura graduated from Plasonica, and she also finished university in 2023. One really obscure thing that I found on Reddit was that Ikura was included in an event alongside singer Minami, back when both of them weren't popular. Ikura has done a number of collaborations with big artists, including her close friend Ano. Her most notable one is with Vondi, Mille, and Eme. In 2023, Ikura released her debut album called Sketch. It's a fun listen and a much-needed change of sound from her YOASOBI stuff. For most of Ikura's career, she's simply been known as the YOASOBI singer, but I think she has the potential to make a name for herself that goes far beyond this label. Another interesting thing about Ikura is her voice acting work. She appeared in the 2021 film Belle and featured in another anime film this year. It's pretty impressive since very few singers try out voice acting. It's usually the other way around. Now we can go over the most common criticism towards YOASOBI's music, and that's it being too repetitive. You don't need any music theory to notice this, and for myself, I think it's a double-edged sword. Ayase's style of production is very easy to recognize, and it seems that people will either enjoy most of his stuff or find it all very bland. I'm a big fan of YOASOBI, and they're one of my most listened to Japanese artists, but I totally understand why a lot of people hate their music. However, I think the standard for hate should be more like this as opposed to comments like this. For me, YOASOBI's music isn't supposed to be innovative, it's just catchy pop music. Most of the time I listen to YOASOBI, it's simply for background music. I do think that YOASOBI's popularity doesn't match the quality of their music per se, excluding a few songs. Ikura and Ayase are both talented artists, and I would like to see them try some new things in the future, because a lot of their recent stuff has just been too bland for me. At the end of the day, YOASOBI is a commercial project, and they have enough popularity where anything they make will sell well, so I don't expect this to change much in the future. With YOASOBI's success, they've made some cool merch and interesting brand deals. YOASOBI have 2 video albums that compile their concert performances, as well as a book featuring some of the stories they turned into songs. Uniqlo made a variety of YOASOBI t-shirts back in 2021, but they're unfortunately not in stock anymore. McDonald's even made a short anime to promote the McDouble that had Yoru ni Kakuru playing in the background. We've even gotten YOASOBI themed cup noodles, energy drinks, and my personal favorite, YOASOBI beer. There's also an official YOASOBI fan club. Over the past 5 years, YOASOBI have not only become one of the biggest names in J-Pop, but also one of the most significant artists to promote Japanese music overseas. For 3 years in a row, they've been the most streamed Japanese artists internationally, and they consistently rank among the top 400 to 600 performers in the world. Despite this, YOASOBI were only the 8th best-selling music act in Japan last year. A lot of Japanese artists and record labels have and continue to prioritize domestic success, but YOASOBI are among those defining these self-focused mindsets within Japan's music industry. Ikura and Ayase's stories are reminders of what we're all capable of, or rather, what the few of us with actual talent can accomplish. So what do you think of YOASOBI? If I misinterpreted any info or missed any other interesting points, let me know in the comments and I'll correct it in the pinned comment. Otherwise, thanks for watching.
Whoa, a lot of valuable information on YOASOBI. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. That was some very helpful stuff. You know, I see a theme with a lot of Asian artists. They all almost fail. That is one thing I've seen, I'm not gonna lie, especially in the Philippines and South Korea. A lot of Japanese artists too, every time I see a story, it's like, every story is, they either got turned down, they were failing, or they were singing on side the street, or they used to perform on side the street. Except for like the big K-pop bands, and most of those bands got formed because of accidents and stuff like that. But outside those K-pop bands that get debuted and look, other than that, like most of the individual artists, they all were like failing at one point. I'm glad to see they didn't stop on their dreams. I don't know, man. I've heard some of their music. This is the thing I don't like about when people say that some artists are repetitive. Okay, if I come up with a sound, is it every artist's job to advance a sound every single year or change their music? Some people just enjoy what they do. And I know what they're saying, like you can mix it up, get the lyrical content better, but this is the thing. You can't outweigh the people. If obviously they're killing the domestic sales, they're top 10 in the international streams outside of Japan, like I just don't understand how you be like, I want you to change or I want you to get better. I just think some people get tired. People, you know what I realize? People hate success. Not talking about the guy who made he did an outstanding job breaking it down. I'm just talking about the example of, I've heard other people say similar things about other artists. Because I haven't listened to enough of their music to disagree with what he said, you know what I'm saying? Because he sounds like he really likes YOASOBI. He sounds like he did a lot of investigation on Japanese music and he's really into it. And I've listened to a lot of Japanese music. I like Backdoor, I like Vondi, I like Creepy Nuts. I told you, I've listened to all of them. I just don't like when people say that word repetitive, because it's like, I get if you're saying your sound sounds the same. When I hear that song, I don't know, maybe that was just my opinion. I heard like 2 or 3 YOASOBI songs. I didn't think that all of them sounded the same. Now they have had artists where I was like, yo, you talk way too similar on every single song, you know what I'm saying? But I get it, if you're a fan, you want more, you want growth, and you know, I just think it's unfair to them. But I love the music so far though, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. And as far as everyone was always in a failed group, it's crazy to see that she was in a group, 2 groups actually. I think it said she was in 2 groups or she was in a solo or whatever. But it's always you're in a group that doesn't work out. He was in a group also. And that group could be really good, but if you don't have that one push or you don't have that one splash or that one wave, you could put out 15 classic songs, but if no one hears them, they're no longer classic. But if you put out one okay song and people like it and it blows up, that's the one, you know what I'm saying? So I get it, man. That's a lot of valuable information. I'm glad to know that. I love Fukuoka. Every time I'm on the channel, I gotta bring up Fukuoka when I'm talking about Japan. Love Tokyo, love Fukuoka. What's somebody else? Osaka, love Osaka. Not the major ones that everyone know about. Of course, Okinawa. There's another one. I love Kyoto. I love Kyoto. There's one more that I'm thinking about. I can't think of the name right now. It's one that people wouldn't really think that I would know, but I love it. And it's gonna come to me later. And when it does, I'm gonna make sure I let you guys know. But it's another city that I really love. But anyways, yeah, man, let's get to part 2 of part 2 of this video. This is another, okay, that first part we watched was how YOASOBI broke J-Pop. This specific video is called, it's only 8 minutes, 39 seconds, Japan's wild obsession with YOASOBI. So we're gonna get into that right now. I see a Taylor Swift quote, and I did see in the last video that they said that Taylor Swift was her inspiration. So let's see what's going on.
します。
This is YOASOBI, a Japanese band that was formed in 2019 consisting of music producer Ayase and lead singer Ikura. Ever since their creation in 2019, their music not only seemed to make headlines in Japan, but has made a significant musical influence around the world. Ayase's insane knowledge of music composition combined with Ikura's outstanding voice, it's a match many aspiring artists would work their entire lives to find. This match made in heaven is one of the reasons why a YOASOBI craze is going on around the world. For the people who don't know who YOASOBI is, I want you to take a look at their very first song, Yori no Kakeru. Known as a debut song, it's usually called that to commemorate the creation of a new music group in Japan. When YOASOBI was created, this was their debut song, and this is what the song received. 10 million YouTube views in the first 5 months, hitting the #1 song in Japan a year later, receiving the famous Diamond label, and according to Billboard Japan, was the first Japanese song ever to surpass 1 billion views. With a single song having this much financial success, many groups would just throw in the towel and retire right there. But this group had different plans. This is a tale of two artists that bring the best out of each other, no matter the obstacles they face. This is Japan's favorite J-pop group, Born in the city of Ube in the Yamaguchi prefecture, Ayase's love for music creation can be traced all the way back to the age of 3. His passion for music made him do the unthinkable, and at the age of just 16, he dropped out of high school with his friends to form the band called Da Vinci. A lot of Ayase's early works with Da Vinci can still be traced on YouTube. However, no music has been released in over 6 years. It seemed that at the moment, there was a lot of momentum going the group's way, and suddenly it all just stopped. At the time the group was making music, Ayase himself was fighting with a stomach ulcer that was threatening his life and decided to stay at the hospital undergoing medical treatment. With Ayase's medical treatment combined with the band losing its lead singer and no clear idea on when he'll be returning, it was within the band's best interest to formally announce disbandment in 2020. While the band decided to part their separate ways, there was one man who wasn't willing to give up just yet. Despite being in the hospital, the dude was still producing music. During his hospital stay, he collaborated with big Vocaloid singers like Hatsune Miku. He was a producer behind the scenes, yet people started to notice his musical prowess. His most famous songs during his hospital stay was Last Resort and Ghost City Tokyo. In fact, Ayase himself would later on do his own self-cover of Ghost City Tokyo, which, funny enough, did tremendously better than Hatsune Miku's original cover. When things looked dark, he recovered, and all it took was 2 big music videos and a self-cover for Japan to realize Ayase's music talent was legit. And sure enough, the opportunity of a lifetime was just over the horizon. The year is still 2019, and with Ayase's musical resume looking strong as ever, he was soon approached by the famous Sony Music Entertainment of Japan for the collaboration of a lifetime. Sony Music Entertainment of Japan frequently collaborates with a website called Monogatari, which consists of short stories done by Japanese freelance authors. Sony would bring many music producers like Ayase and make music videos inspired by one of the short stories on Monogatari, with a big project presented to Ayase. While he has the music prowess to compose the music, he believed a new singer is needed to do his music justice. So he looked and looked and looked until he came across a singer he believed would bring his music video to life, and her name was Ikura. Keep in mind, at this point, both Ayase and Ikura were very active in their own respected music careers. Ikura had some success of her own, being a part of her own musical group and also having a couple of albums of her own released as well. It seemed that the stars truly aligned for these two to meet, as Ayase found Ikura through one of her song covers, not through a resume or even a concert, but coincidentally through Instagram. Ayase would later check on her YouTube channel, where he was so convinced that he contacted her directly and persuaded her to be a part of this big project. She agreed, and the rest was history.
YOASOBI was officially formed.
Ayase decided that the project would be based on a short story called Thanatos no Yuaku, and with Ikura as the singer, Yori no Kakeru was made. And well, the rest was history. Japan already knew that the song itself was meant to be a sad representation of the short story it's based on. But people didn't find the song sad outside of Japan. If the entire mood of the song was upbeat, so were the people listening. But to YOASOBI, they were happy that the world was connecting to their music.
僕らの楽曲で楽しんでくれてることがすごく嬉しいし、もちろん意味を知ってくれていても分からなくても音でちゃんとつながれたんだなっていう実感が僕らはすごく嬉しいです。
After their debut song was a worldwide hit, YOASOBI entered the music scene and never looked back, because 2023, the following year, they would make only 5 songs. And what made them special is that those 5 songs all together would bring 500 million views on YouTube alone, their most famous songs being Tabun and Gunjo. Later, they would begin to make a presence in the anime scene by making openings and ending songs for various anime shows like Beastars, Frieren, and of course, of all the songs YOASOBI has produced, Idol is the only song that can match their first. These were the numbers of Yori no Kakeru, and this is what the Japanese hit song Idol had in less than 1 year. It seemed that no matter what YOASOBI made, eventually they were going to outperform their own work. Speaking of performing, a good reason why they were able to reach worldwide success is that they believed their music is different live compared to an in-studio recording. Singing music live brings new meaning into an artist's music, and they embrace this fully.
音源だけではなくてライブというフィールドでもっともっとYOASOBI見せていけたらいいなって思ってます。
The name YOASOBI has a deep meaning as well. Long story short, they think of this band group as a hobby more than anything else. In my opinion, every sound, every lyric, every music video gives off the impression that everyone works in harmony by being able to express their own creative freedom in some way, shape, or form. YOASOBI is a great example of a group that promotes the freedom to express yourself with no rules or strings attached. They accomplished what many couldn't, striking that balance of hard work and a genuine care for their craft. And honestly, that's really cool.
Thank you, Head in the Clouds! We are YOASOBI from Japan! Thank you!
Yeah, that one was pretty good too. I think that one was kind of more straight to the point, if you want a shorter version. The other one was a little longer, a little bit more detailed, but I appreciate both of them because I found some interesting facts in both. The bottom line remains the same. The thing about YOASOBI that I really like about them is, even though there are a lot of people who kind of like do the anime thing with the fast-paced words and the lyrics, the way they do it, to me, it sounds a little bit more pleasurable to my ears. And I can't really explain it because I don't know how to express myself, because I know it's going to be a lot of hardcore music fans out there who would really like Japanese music, be like, I don't understand what you're saying. It's like when I listen to YOASOBI, I love the way their songs are structured, if that makes sense. The way she sings the songs, her vocals are a lot more like, to me, they give the song a little bit more life. Like for me, like when I hear music like that, I think of like, I do think of anime, I think of speed racing, I think of video games when I hear like certain Japanese songs. But when I listen to her voice and the way he structured the song together, to me, it sounds a little bit more like, this is something that I can listen to all of the time. I don't have to just be in one specific mode to listen to like the other stuff. I love people who always try to step out of the box and try new things, and the fact that they are trying to put these E-sides together and they are trying to get their songs into the English. And like he just said, I couldn't agree more. Even if people don't understand the lyrics, the fact that they can connect. Who would have thought that people in America would connect with someone like not even speaking the language? Just like with other artists, like I know BTS in Korea and SB19, they all like do it in their language, but then they come back and then they do it with English because you can connect to a broader fan base. And I love that from artists, especially artists who don't speak English fairly well or are learning to speak English. It's not your job to speak our language, but it helps because this is the biggest music market and it can only grow your music worldwide. I'm a big fan of what they do. I'm going to follow them even more. I'm a huge fan, and I need to go check and see what's the latest songs from them, but I'm going to start reacting to some other stuff. But overall, I give both those documentaries a 10 out of 10. I like longer documentaries more, so I like the first one a little bit more just because a little bit more detail, a little bit longer. But if I wanted a shorter version, strictly straight to the point, I like the other documentary as well. I think they were called How YOASOBI Broke J-Pop, and the other one was, But hey, at the end of the day, it is what it is. I'm going to put both of the original links in the description so you can get a chance to look at both of them. I thought both videos were great. I thought both of them were really detailed, really well shot. And hey, like I said, I'm a fan of YOASOBI, and I just can't wait to see what's next for them and how long can they keep their streak up of just being one of the top artists. Because like I said, it's a lot of groups going in there. You got Ado, Creepy Nuts, XG, Kenshi, Vondi, Backdoor. I said Back Number. Yeah, it's a lot of them, man. It's so many groups. I can't even keep up. But we're gonna get more into them. So you guys, let me know in the comments. What do you think about YOASOBI? What do you think about their music? What do you think about those documentaries and how I explain the history of them? Were they missing something? Is there something more I need to see? Was there something, a part of that I didn't know? And also tell me what's the next songs I should react to from YOASOBI, or a live performance, or the first takes that they did. Please let me know. Comment down below. I'll do whatever you say because I'm more interested in music than anything. Subscribe for more Japanese content. Subscribe for more YOASOBI content, one of my favorite groups. And we up out of here. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Always with love. Peace.